Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you like what you hear today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's dive into a figure who I think is super interesting. He continues to spark debate even decades after his death.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Osho,
Okay.
also known as Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh.
Right.
Our mission today is to kind of uncover why Osho remains so controversial today. We're going to explore the spiritual, ideological, and intellectual clashes he sparked. Some really interesting stuff.
It's funny because, like, his teachings, they evoke such strong reactions from people. It's almost like they either totally resonate with his ideas or they're just like, no.
Yeah.
And it's this polarizing effect, I think, that makes him such a fascinating figure to study.
For sure. So to start, Osho's brand of spirituality was anything but typical. He kind of rejected that like classic renunciation path, saying that material abundance and enlightenment could coexist. Like how is that possible?
Well, so he believed that rejecting material possessions wasn't like necessary for spiritual growth. It was more about detaching from the ego, not necessarily from material things. He thought that like clinging to poverty could be just as much of an ego trap as clinging to wealth.
Oh, so it was more about your internal state rather than your external possessions.
Exactly. He was all about focusing on inner transformation. Like that was key for him.
Okay.
And he also, he challenged the traditional spiritual teachings. He was pulling from all sorts of different traditions, like Zen, Sufism, Taoism, like you name it. He was looking at it.
Yeah.
And he kind of created this unique blend that obviously attracted a lot of followers.
Right.
But it also raised eyebrows among these like more orthodox religious groups.
Yeah, that makes sense. It probably felt like a dilution or even a misrepresentation to them.
Exactly.
Of their beliefs.
And the controversy, it kind of intensifies when you start thinking about his views on sex and tantra, because he saw sexual energy as this powerful force that you could harness for spiritual awakening.
And that is like so different from what we hear from other spiritual leaders.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So how did his perspective on Tantra differ from like the traditional interpretations?
So traditional tantra, emphasizes harnessing that sexual energy and transforming it into spiritual energy.
Yeah.
But some critics argue that like Osho's teachings on the subject were often misinterpreted or taken out of context, which, led to that whole sex guru label that kind of followed him around.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like Osho really just had a knack for challenging the status quo, not just in the spiritual realm, but within the establishment.
Totally.
I mean, he was very outspoken about his criticism of organized religion.
Oh, yeah. He viewed organized religion as like this system that was built on fear and guilt, promoting blind faith over individual experience and like questioning. He thought true spirituality should be about personal transformation, self-discovery, not adherence to these rigid doctrines.
Right.
And that obviously led to a lot of conflict with religious leaders.
They probably saw him as like a threat.
Oh, huge threat.
To their authority.
Absolutely.
So he wasn't just offering an alternative path. He was challenging like the foundation of these institutions.
100%. And his criticism of authority, it didn't stop at religion. Like he was also a huge critic of these societal systems.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like democracy and capitalism.
Wow.
He believed that they hindered individual freedom, perpetuated inequality, and he envisioned a society where, like, enlightened individuals, not institutions, were the ones holding the power.
That's pretty radical.
Oh, for sure.
And when we talk about Osho's clashes with the establishment, we got to talk about the story of Rajneeshpuram.
Right.
His utopian community in Oregon.
Yeah, Rajneeshpuram is like a pivotal chapter in Osho's story. It's really important for understanding his legacy and, all the controversies around him. Yeah.
Things took a really dark turn there with legal battles, bioterrorism.
With bioterrorism.
Yeah.
That's a serious escalation.
It was a crazy turn of events. And ultimately, the community collapsed.
So is Osho directly involved?
Well, not directly in the crimes that were committed by some of his followers.
Right.
But the whole Rajneeshpuram episode, it really solidified his image.
As this controversial figure.
Yeah. And potentially dangerous. At least that's how the public saw it.
Yeah. I can understand why that would cast such a long shadow. But even with all the controversy, There's an undeniable intellectual depth to his teachings that I think we need to explore. I mean, his methods were a little unconventional, to say the least.
Yeah.
He would present these contradictory viewpoints,
Yeah.
which must have been so confusing
Oh, for
for
sure.
his followers.
So he did that on purpose.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't into just like spoon-feeding answers.
Okay.
He wanted to shake people out of their complacency,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Get them to like question their assumptions.
Think for themselves. He believed that truth wasn't static. It was like an ever-evolving process.
So it sounds like he was more focused on like provoking critical thinking
Yes.
than delivering like a fixed set of beliefs.
Exactly. He felt that true understanding came from engaging with these like opposing viewpoints
Right.
and forming your own conclusions. But obviously that approach, it led to accusations
Yeah.
of intellectual inconsistency, especially from like academics.
Say like structure.
They like a more structured and linear way of thinking.
Yeah. So he was disrupting traditional modes of learning,
Yes.
just like he disrupted traditional spiritual practices.
That's a great way to put it.
And then his emphasis on mysticism and intuition really further distanced him from academics and scientists
Oh, yeah, for sure.
who champion rationalism. So what did he mean by mysticism? And how did it like clash with rationalism?
Well, so rationalism is all about, logic and reason. Like that's your primary source of knowledge.
Yeah.
But Osho, he believed that intuition and direct experience played this vital role in understanding the nature of reality.
Oh, so he was advocating for like a more holistic approach to knowledge,
Yeah.
one that includes both the head and the heart.
Exactly.
And did this holistic approach kind of extend to his perspective on like wealth and spirituality?
Totally. And that was another major point of contention because
Right,
his organization was criticized for selling these expensive courses and luxury goods,
Right.
which seemed to kind of contradict his teachings against poverty for spiritual teachers.
Yeah, that does seem contradictory.
Right. Like, how do you reconcile those two positions?
Yeah. How did he justify that aspect of his organization?
So he argued that spiritual teachers shouldn't have to live in poverty
Okay.
and that abundance could be like a part of a spiritual life. He believed that wealth, when used consciously, could be a tool for personal and societal transformation. But obviously critics saw this as hypocrisy,
Oh, yeah.
and they accused him of exploiting his followers for financial gain.
So it's clear that Osho was a master at pushing buttons,
Oh, yeah,
challenging conventional thinking.
for sure.
But what's so interesting to me is like how his teachings continue to resonate with people today,
Right.
even with all the controversy.
Yeah, and that's the paradox of Osho. He
Yeah.
was a lightning rod for controversy.
Mm-hmm.
But his ideas about like human consciousness, meditation,
Right.
personal freedom,
Yeah.
they still hold this powerful appeal for a lot of people.
Yeah, his books are still widely read. His meditation techniques are practiced worldwide. You can find his lectures online.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, he had this unique ability to articulate these like complex spiritual concepts
Right?
in a way that was clear and engaging and often really funny.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't shy away from challenging his audience,
Yeah.
encouraging them to think critically and question their beliefs.
So it was more than just the content.
Oh, yeah.
It was his style, his
Yeah.
charisma that drew people in.
Totally. He had this magnetic personality. And he wasn't afraid to challenge people's preconceived notions. And that really resonated with those who were like seeking a more authentic and individualistic approach to spirituality.
Like his emphasis on personal responsibility and self-discovery
Right.
feels really relevant in today's world,
Oh, absolutely.
where we're just bombarded with information.
Yeah.
And there's countless paths to choose from.
Totally. And in a world that often feels really overwhelming and confusing, Osho's message of self-reliance,
Right.
finding your own truth,
Yeah.
can be incredibly empowering. He's encouraging people to like break free from societal expectations.
Yeah.
Forge their own path.
It's almost like he anticipated the challenges of navigating the complexities of like modern life.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. He was speaking to this deep-seated human desire for authenticity and freedom.
Right.
And I think that desire has only intensified in our current social and technological landscape.
So it's not just about the specific teaching.
No.
It's about the overall ethos he embodied.
Yeah.
That courage to be different,
Yeah.
to question the status quo.
Exactly, and that's what makes him such a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
Osho represents a challenge to these established systems of power, whether it's religion, politics, or societal norms. And that kind of challenge will always elicit admiration and resistance.
It's fascinating how he could be so inspiring and unsettling at the same time.
Yeah, that duality is at the heart of Osho's legacy. He embraced contradiction.
Right.
His teachings reflected that. He wasn't afraid to explore like the darker aspects of human nature, the uncomfortable truths about ourselves
Yeah.
and the world around us.
He wasn't into sugarcoating reality.
Yep.
Or offering easy answers.
Not at all. He wanted to spark this genuine engagement with life.
Yeah.
To force people to confront their own inner landscapes and like the complexities of existence.
So the controversies surrounding him are almost like a testament to the power of his ideas. He challenged the established order.
Right.
And that's going to create ripples even decades later.
Yeah. I think that's a really insightful way to look at it.
Thanks.
He wasn't afraid to disrupt things and shake things up, push
Yeah.
people beyond their comfort zones. And it's in those moments of disruption and discomfort that true growth and transformation can occur.
It's like he threw a rock into the pond of our collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And the ripples are still expanding.
And that's why it's so important to engage with his work, even if it makes us uncomfortable.
Right.
Because within that discomfort lies the potential for expanding our understanding of ourselves and the world.
So if we were to just distill the reasons why Osho remains controversial today, what would those be?
Well, his willingness to challenge authority is a big one. Whether it was religious institutions, political systems, societal norms, he wasn't afraid to question and critique anything that he perceived as limiting individual freedom. He was a true rebel.
He really was. And his unique blend of spirituality also kind of contributed to the controversy.
Yeah.
I mean, he drew inspiration from all these different traditions, but he didn't adhere strictly to any one dogma.
Right.
And this made him appealing to some who were seeking a more fluid, personalized spirituality. But it also probably alienated those who were really invested in those traditions.
Oh, totally.
That he was, in their eyes, blending.
Right.
Or even misinterpreting.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's his views on sex and sexuality.
Right.
Osho's embrace of Tantra and his open discussions about sexuality really challenged those deeply ingrained taboos and conservative views of spirituality.
For sure.
And that earned him that sex guru label.
Yeah.
And a lot of criticism. And finally, the controversies surrounding his organization, particularly those allegations of financial impropriety, can't be ignored.
Yeah, you're right. The way his organization operated,
Right.
including the selling of expensive courses and luxury goods, raised concerns about hypocrisy and exploitation.
Even with his justification.
Even with his justifications, yeah.
So all these factors combined create this very complex, multi-layered legacy that continues to be debated and reinterpreted.
Osho's teachings offer this potent mix of insights and provocations.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately up to each individual to like grapple with those teachings.
Right.
And come to their own conclusions.
It's a reminder that true spiritual exploration is rarely comfortable.
No.
Or straightforward. It's about asking difficult questions.
Yeah.
Challenging our own assumptions.
Yeah.
Being open to the unknown.
And Osho, for better or worse, he forces us to confront those uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
About ourselves and the world.
So even decades after his death, Osho's legacy remains a source of fascination and debate.
Yeah.
But why should our listener care about this controversial figure from the past?
Well, Osho's story and his teachings touch on some of the most like fundamental questions we face as human beings. Questions about freedom, the nature of truth, the search for meaning in a world that can often feel meaningless.
It goes beyond just the controversies and the scandals.
Right.
It's about the deeper questions he raises about who we are.
Exactly.
What we're capable of.
Whether you find his ideas inspiring or troubling, his impact on the world of spirituality is undeniable.
Yeah.
He challenged the status quo, pushed boundaries, and left behind a legacy that continues to spark conversations and debates.
And in a world that often tries to fit us into neat boxes and define us by our beliefs, his willingness to disrupt and challenge conventional thinking is perhaps more relevant than ever. It's like Osho was holding up a mirror to society, reflecting back all our anxieties, desires, and contradictions.
That's a great analogy. He forces us to confront those uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the systems that we create. And that confrontation can be liberating, but it can also be incredibly unsettling.
Yeah, it's not an easy path to take.
No.
But for those who are willing to engage with his work,
it
can be a profoundly transformative experience.
Absolutely. It's about like venturing beyond that comfort zone
Yeah.
of conventional thinking and exploring these uncharted territories of consciousness and human potential.
And in that exploration, we can discover new insights about ourselves and the nature of reality itself.
Totally.
Osho emphasized that truth is not static,
Right.
but like a dynamic process.
Yeah.
It's a constant unfolding.
It's always evolving.
And as we grow and evolve,
Yeah.
so too does our understanding of truth.
100%.
So it's not about arriving at a final destination with all the answers neatly packaged.
Right.
It's about embracing the questions, the mystery,
The history.
the ongoing journey of discovery.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that sense of curiosity, open-mindedness, and a willingness to let go of those preconceived notions that might be holding us back.
Yeah, and that can be challenging at times.
Oh, for sure.
But ultimately, it leads to a more expansive and fulfilling experience of life.
It's about transcending those limitations of dogma and embracing like the fluidity and complexity of life itself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Osho,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this final thought.
What do you think about Osho's approach to spirituality and his critique of society? Is he a misunderstood visionary? Or a dangerous manipulator? Or maybe, like we often see with these complex figures, a bit of both?
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in between.
Right.
So we encourage you to continue exploring his teachings, grapple with his ideas, and ultimately arrive at your own conclusions.
Because the most important thing isn't whether you agree or disagree with Osho. It's about the questions that he provokes.
Right.
The insights that he sparks.
Yeah.
And that journey of self-discovery that he inspires.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the controversial world of Osho. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.